The galaxy had long forgotten about Earth. In the great maps of the stars, Earth was marked as nothing more than a small blue world, old and quiet, weak compared to the shining empires that stretched across the sky. No great fleets carried its flag. No council gave weight to its voice. To most of the galaxy, Earth was a forgotten place, a planet left behind. But silence does not always mean weakness. Deep under the oceans of Earth, far below the trenches where no light could reach, something had been sleeping. It was not alive in the way people understood life. It was not a creature, nor a machine in the common sense. It was something else. A guardian. For thousands of years it had rested in the dark, built in a time no record remembered, made for a purpose no one now understood. And in that long sleep, the galaxy moved on, forgetting the promise that Earth had once made to itself. Then, without warning, the stillness broke. It began with a signal. At first it was faint, a single pulse of energy that echoed out into the void. It was picked up by traders passing near the Sol system. They thought it was static, just noise from a dying star. But then it repeated. A second pulse, stronger. Then another, and another. A rhythm, like the beating of a giant heart, waking from a dream. Soon every listening station in the nearby sectors caught it. The pulse carried across the void, deeper and louder. Not just a signal, but a warning. Something had awakened. At the edge of alien empires, council members gathered in their halls. They played the recordings again and again, their faces pale, in fear. The code was ancient, older than their own civilizations. Some recognized fragments of it from broken records, whispers of a weapon that was never meant to be used. Others denied it, saying Earth was too weak, too primitive to hold such power. But the truth could not be ignored. The signal was real, and it was growing stronger. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on as usual. People walked the streets, unaware that beneath their oceans, metal walls were splitting open, releasing air that had been sealed for centuries. Machines stirred, gears turned, and lights flickered in the dark. The Guardian was rising. The oceans boiled as something massive broke, free from the seafloor. The water churned with violent force, waves crashing against distant coasts. Above the surface, storm clouds formed, drawn by the surge of energy. Then, from the black depths, the Guardian came forth. It was not shaped like a ship, nor like a creature. It was something greater, something alien yet human, designed in an age when fear had guided creation. Its body was built of black metal, etched with patterns that glowed with golden fire. Its eyes, two burning spheres, opened for the first time in ages. The world itself seemed to shiver as the Guardian rose higher, breaking free from the ocean that had been its grave. Far above Earth, satellites recorded the moment. The Guardian did not hesitate. It lifted itself into the sky, engines burning with light not seen in living memory. Clouds split apart, and the great machine entered the void, and the galaxy noticed. Fleets near Earth's sector reported the event. Soldiers, traders, and explorers sent messages filled with panic. They described the Guardian's size, so large it blocked the stars behind it. They spoke of the power it radiated, a power that silenced all who saw it. The alien councils gathered, once more, and this time there was no denying it. The Guardian was real. Earth had been hiding it. For generations, alien empires had laughed at Earth. They called it small. They called it weak. But now those same voices whispered in fear. If Earth had a Guardian strong enough to shake the stars, what else did humanity have? What other secrets waited to wake? The Guardian did not speak. It did not broadcast any words. It moved in silence, crossing the black sea of space with slow, steady purpose. Every empire with eyes on the Sol system held its breath. They wondered if the Guardian would strike, if it would turn its fire upon them. None dared to approach. In the chambers of the Grand Alien Council, silence fell as the recordings played again. The sound of the signal, the beating pulse that had started it all, echoed through the room. Leaders shifted uncomfortably, their scales fur and skin glistening with unease. They had built their power on the idea that Earth was nothing. Now they saw their mistake. Some wanted to send fleets to destroy it before it grew stronger. Others argued that such an act would invite their own end. A few whispered that maybe the Guardian was not meant for them at all, but for something worse that was coming. Yet one truth settled in every mind. The galaxy was no longer the same. Earth had been silent for so long, but now it had spoken through the rising of the Guardian. And when Earth spoke, the galaxy trembled. The Guardian moved beyond the orbit of Earth, engines blazing. It passed the moon, leaving behind trails of light that burned like comets across the sky. Humanity, still unaware, slept under those same stars, never knowing that their Guardian had risen to defend them. But in the deep halls of alien empires, the truth spread like fire. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was no longer forgotten, and the galaxy looked on in fear. The galaxy watches in fear. The Guardian moved beyond Earth, its massive form casting shadows over the moon as if night had fallen twice. It did not pause. It did not turn. It simply rose higher, following a path that no one understood. Its thrusters lit the dark with burning rivers of light, and the soundless void carried its presence like a storm, spreading across calm waters. Alien empires far away gathered in hidden chambers to watch. They had always treated Earth as a quiet world, a place that mattered little. Now the images on their screens showed something that made even their strongest generals hesitate. The Guardian was not a myth. It was real, and it was awake. In the capital of the Trivan Dominion, the ruling council sat in silence. These were a people who had crushed dozens of star systems under their flag, yet now they whispered like frightened children. "If Earth could build this," one of them said, his voice trembling, "then what else do they hide?" No one answered, because the truth was already in their eyes. Across the galaxy, the Kalari Alliance called an emergency meeting. Their oldest scholars searched through dusty archives, looking for any mention of such a machine. They found fragments of stories, pieces of warnings left behind by explorers who had once spoken of Earth's secrets. The record said Earth had been a world of survivors, a world that did not rise quickly but did not fall easily either. And now those stories did not sound like legends. They sounded like prophecy. The Guardian continued its silent journey. From the outside, it looked like a colossal weapon, built for destruction. Its body carried markings that glowed like veins of fire, and each line pulsed with steady rhythm. It did not fire upon any ships, nor did it send a single signal. Yet its silence was heavier than any threat. Entire fleets followed it at a distance, unwilling to come closer but too afraid to look away. In one distant station, a young alien officer watched the Guardian through trembling eyes. He whispered to himself, "It is not only a weapon. It feels alive." And though no one around him spoke the same thought, they all felt it. The Guardian did not move like a mindless machine. It moved like something that remembered. Rumors spread faster than light. Traders carried the tale from star to star, each version more terrifying than the last. Some said the Guardian was the last of a fleet, and more would soon follow. Others swore it carried the souls of ancient humans, locked inside to guard their world forever, and some feared it was only the beginning of Earth's return, a first sign that the planet they ignored was about to claim its place among the stars. The empires argued among themselves. Should they strike now, while it was alone? Or should they wait and risk the possibility that Earth had more Guardians hidden in the dark? No answer brought comfort. Every choice led to fear. Meanwhile, Earth's people remained unaware. They slept under quiet skies, dreaming of simple lives. The governments of Earth did not yet know the truth. Their satellites showed strange signals. Their scientists argued over the meaning. But the scale of what was happening was beyond their reach. They were blind to the storm that their ancestors had left behind. And still the Guardian rose, heading farther from Earth. The galaxy watched in fear as it passed through asteroid fields. its thrusters burning brighter than suns, its armored body cutting through the void with unstoppable force. The asteroids shattered in its path, breaking apart as if even stone could not stand against it. In the hidden chambers of the Council worlds, the whispers grew louder. If Earth once had the strength to build such a guardian, then why did they stop? Why did they disappear from the wars of the stars? But no one had the answer. All they had was fear, and fear spread like fire. In the great halls of the ZYR Dominion, their leader stood before a crowd of soldiers. He raised his hand to silence them and spoke. "Do not forget," he said, "that humanity was never like us. They did not conquer by power. They endured. They endured famine, storms, and wars. They endured time itself. Perhaps this guardian is not just a weapon. Perhaps it is their memory, a warning left for us all." The soldiers said nothing. They had faced many enemies, but none had made their hearts grow cold as the sight of the guardian did. It was not only its size, nor its power. It was the silence of something that did not need to prove itself. As the guardian drifted deeper into space, fleets trailed at its edge, careful not to cross too close. Whole worlds turned their eyes toward the Sol system, listening to the steady pulse that still echoed across the stars. It was the sound of Earth's forgotten promise returning to life. The galaxy trembled, and yet, in the dark corners of space, something else trembled too. Far beyond the eyes of the Council, shadows moved. The Guardian was not rising without reason. It had not awakened by chance. Something was stirring in the void, something that even the strongest empires feared. The Guardian did not look back. It moved toward that darkness, and the galaxy, powerless to stop it, could only watch. The first clash, the Guardian drifted through the black sea of stars, silent and unstoppable. Behind it, fleets of alien ships followed at a safe distance. They did not dare to come closer, but they could not turn away either. It was as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for the giant to make its first move. But fear is never patient. The first to act was the Creel Dominion, a warlike empire that had built its pride on battle. For generations they had claimed that no fleet could stand against them. When they saw the Guardian rise, they did not see a mystery. They saw a challenge. Their leaders gathered in their fortress world and spoke with arrogance. "If Earth has sent a machine into the stars, then we will crush it. We will remind the galaxy that only Creel strength is eternal." And so their fleet moved. Thousands of warships bristling with cannons and missiles launched from their docks. The news spread quickly. The galaxy watched as the Creel armada entered the path of the Guardian. Other empires waited in silence, eager to see if the giant could bleed. The Creel ships spread across the void, surrounding the Guardian from every side. Their weapons glowed, their engines roared, and their commanders shouted orders with voices filled with pride. They did not speak to the Guardian, for they believed it could not hear. They simply opened fire. The darkness of space became light. Beams of energy, missiles, and plasma shells tore through the black, striking the Guardian with the power of 1,000 suns. Explosions rippled across its surface. For a moment, it was hidden behind fire and smoke. The Creel cheered. "It is only metal," they cried. "It will break like all things." But then the fire cleared. The Guardian still stood. Its body was scorched but unbroken. Its glowing veins of golden light pulsed brighter, as if the attack had only stirred it further. And then, for the first time since its awakening, the Guardian answered. Its eyes lit up like twin stars. A low hum shook the silence, deep and heavy, vibrating through the ships around it. The Creel fleet hesitated. In that pause, the Guardian moved. From its arms, arcs of burning light erupted faster than any eye could follow. The energy swept across the void like a storm, cutting through the Creel ships as if they were paper. One by one, the mighty warships fell silent. Hulls broke apart. Engines died. Entire crews screamed as their ships were torn into pieces, scattered like ash in the wind. The Creel had come with pride. They left with silence. In less than a minute, thousands of ships were gone. The armada that once made the galaxy tremble had been reduced to debris floating in the dark. The Guardian did not chase the survivors. It did not boast. It simply continued forward, as if the attack had been nothing more than a brief distraction. The galaxy watched in horror. The Creel, once feared across the stars, had been destroyed with a single strike. No fleet had ever fallen so fast. No empire had ever been humbled so completely. The recordings of the battle spread like wildfire. On every world, in every council chamber, people watched the same sight. The Guardian, turning its blazing eyes upon a fleet, and the fleet vanishing into fire. For some, it was a moment of terror. For others, a revelation. The Guardian was not only a weapon, it was something beyond their understanding, something created to stand against armies and win without effort. Whispers grew louder. If Earth had the power to build this, what stopped them from building more? And deeper still came another fear. What if this is only a warning? What if the Guardian is not meant for us, but for something else? In the ruins of the Creel Dominion, survivors wept in shame. Their empire had been broken, not by war, but by one machine that did not even acknowledge them. The Creel leaders tried to silence the truth, but the truth was louder than their voices. The galaxy knew. The Guardian pressed onward. It did not slow. It did not turn to face its enemies. The destruction of the Creel was not its purpose. It was not hunting for war. It was heading toward something greater, something waiting in the void. Yet its silence became its greatest weapon. Every empire now saw themselves in the shadow of the Creel. If the strongest warriors could fall in moments, then who was safe? If one Guardian could destroy an empire, then what would happen if Earth had more? In the grand chambers of the alien councils, leaders debated in fear. Some cried for peace, some demanded attack, but none could agree. The Guardian had shattered the balance of the galaxy. And all the while, Earth itself remained quiet, its people still unaware of the storm their forgotten Guardian had unleashed. The galaxy trembled. The Guardian did not. And somewhere in the deep darkness ahead, the reason for its awakening stirred. The Guardian's purpose. The ruins of the Creel fleet still drifted in the black sea of space when the Guardian passed through, its thrusters burning with steady fire. It did not look back at the destruction it had caused. It did not seek to finish the survivors. To the Guardian, the battle had been nothing more than a passing storm, a test of strength answered in silence. The galaxy, however, could not look away. For the first time in centuries, fear united the stars. Empires that had hated one another, who had spilled blood over borders and trade, now turned their eyes toward Earth. They whispered in council halls, their voices tight with unease. The Guardian is not an accident. It did not rise by chance. Something has called it awake. In the libraries of the Kalari Alliance, old records were unsealed. They were fragments from explorers who had once visited Earth in the age before great councils and empires. The words were broken and faded, but they told a story. They spoke of humans who feared not only the galaxy, but something beyond it. They spoke of promises left behind, machines buried in silence, built for a day when Earth would need them. The scholars trembled as they read. "This Guardian is not meant to conquer," one said softly. "It is meant to protect." But protect from what? The question spread across every world. Why had it awakened now? What danger had stirred in the darkness that even Earth's forgotten machines could no longer sleep? The Guardian gave no answer. It moved steadily far from Earth, leaving behind the frightened fleets that trailed in its shadow. Its path was straight, unchanging, as if it had been set long ago. Some believed it was heading toward the edge of the galaxy. Others feared it was hunting something that lived in the void. Meanwhile, humanity itself remained blind. On Earth, satellites recorded strange readings. Scientists argued about energy spikes in the oceans. Some governments whispered of an unknown craft leaving orbit, but the truth was far beyond their reach. The people of Earth walked their streets, unaware that their protector had risen. unaware that the galaxy shook in fear of their forgotten strength. But the galaxy knew, and the galaxy trembled. In the great council of the Xir Dominion, leaders shouted across long tables. "We must destroy it before it reaches its destination," one said. "If it unites with more of its kind, no power will remain to stop it." But others shook their heads. "The Creel tried," they whispered, "and the Creel are gone. If we strike, we may join them in ruin. Perhaps the Guardian is not meant for us. Perhaps it walks toward an enemy we cannot see." That thought was more frightening than war itself. If the Guardian was not meant to fight the empires of today, then what had it been built for? Rumors turned into stories. Some said the Guardian was the first of 7, each hidden in silence until their time came. Others claimed it carried a message from Earth, a message humanity had forgotten, but one the galaxy would soon hear. And, in the darkest whispers, there was fear of something older, something that lived beyond the stars, something the Guardian had been made to stand against. On a lonely station at the edge of space, an old alien engineer watched the Guardian pass. His hands shook as he spoke to no one. "This is not a weapon of pride, this is a promise humanity made long ago. A promise that when the stars themselves turned hostile, Earth would not kneel." The Guardian continued forward, its blazing eyes cutting through the dark. Behind it, more fleets followed, cautious and afraid. None dared to attack again. The destruction of the Creel was still fresh in their minds. To challenge the Guardian was to invite silence, and silence meant death. But the silence of the Guardian was different. It was not the silence of death, nor the silence of an empty machine. It was the silence of purpose. Every movement, every glowing pulse of light carried a weight that could not be explained. It was not hunting glory. It was not seeking conquest. It was walking the path it had been built for, and somewhere in the distance, past the edge of familiar stars, the reason waited. A shadow moved in the void, unseen by most, felt only in whispers. The Guardian moved toward it without hesitation. The galaxy still asked the same question. Why had Earth hidden such a thing? And yet the greater question was worse. What had Earth known that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten? On every world, in every council, the same thought spread like a shadow. Earth had not been weak. Earth had not been silent. Earth had been preparing, and the Guardian was the proof. The galaxy did not know the full truth yet, but they felt it, like the cold breath of a storm coming closer. The Guardian was awake, and it would not return to sleep, not until its purpose was complete. And as it moved deeper into the stars, the galaxy realized the most terrifying truth of all. The Guardian was not rising for them. It was rising for something far worse. The trembling galaxy, the Guardian cut through the black sea of stars, a mountain of fire and steel moving with unshakable purpose. Behind it, fleets of every empire followed, keeping distance, afraid to close in, yet more afraid to lose sight of it. The Creel were gone, reduced to drifting wrecks. The others had learned. None dared fire again. The galaxy whispered. Entire worlds spoke of the Guardian. Merchants told stories in crowded markets, each tale darker than the last. Soldiers dreamed of its glowing eyes. Children woke crying from nightmares of a giant hand reaching down from the heavens. The Guardian had no voice, yet its silence spoke louder than any empire. In the high halls of the Galactic Council, arguments boiled. One faction demanded an alliance of every fleet to crush the Guardian before it reached its unknown destination. Another faction whispered that perhaps the Guardian was not their enemy at all. "It walks toward the void," one said, his words echoing across the chamber. What if the void itself has stirred? What if the Guardian rises not against us, but against what waits beyond? No one could answer. They only knew that something vast and ancient had changed. The Guardian gave no signal. It ignored every message sent its way. Not a single word escaped its blazing frame, yet its silence carried weight. It was the silence of patience, the silence of a sentinel that had slept for centuries and would sleep again only when its duty was complete. And then came the signs. At the edge of mapped space, where stars grew faint and shadows thick, Strange rifts appeared. The void rippled as though something pressed against it from the other side. Beacons placed by explorers long ago flickered and died. Patrol ships sent to investigate vanished without a trace. The whispers grew louder. Something was coming. The Guardian changed course. Its thrusters flared, burning brighter than suns, pushing it faster than before. The fleets that followed pulled back in fear. None wanted to stand in its path. None wanted to risk being mistaken for an enemy. For the first time, the galaxy began to understand. The Guardian was not a conqueror. It was not a weapon of ambition. It was a shield, awakened only because a threat greater than empires had stirred. Earth had known this day would come. Earth had buried its protector beneath oceans, waiting for the hour of need. And that hour had arrived. But fear remained. If one Guardian could erase a fleet in a single strike, what would happen if Earth revealed more? What if this was not the only sentinel sleeping in silence? What if humanity had left behind not one promise but many? On every world, leaders whispered the same truth. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had only been waiting. The Guardian moved beyond the stars the empires knew. The darkness deepened, the rifts widened, and the air of the galaxy grew heavy with dread. The fleets that had once followed now lingered behind, unwilling to step further. The Guardian alone crossed the threshold into shadow. From that moment, it was no longer only Earth's Guardian. It was a symbol of something greater, a reminder that the galaxy was not safe, that the stars themselves carried secrets far older than the empires who ruled them. And in that silence, the galaxy trembled. They trembled not only for the Guardian, they trembled for themselves, for the realization that humanity had never been what they believed. Humanity had been survivors, builders, and dreamers, and long ago humanity had prepared for a war that no one else remembered. Now the Guardian had risen, and the galaxy could not look away.